Which word of the day? Today's word is hermetic, adjective. Hermetic describes a real-world, philosophical, religious, and magical tradition that founded the theological and philosophical base of Western alchemy. Hermeticism is often a long, drawn-out affair with lots of potentially flashy elements. Hermetic magic is based on the premise that magic is a predictable force that can be measured and controlled. Hermetics often apply scientific or pseudoscientific theories to find their magic, and often place a heavy emphasis on formulae, precise rituals, and academic principles. While magicians of other traditions often have a more personalized relationship with how they perform their magic, Hermetics often have a sort of scientific detachment, seeing magic more as a tool rather than a lifestyle and an art.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series. Spell worders, welcome back to another episode of Words of the Witches. Very happy to be back, very excited to be here. All the things. We are officially 3/4 of the way through the novels. We have 12 more books, including this one. So, yeah, this is our last set of books. This will be the last grouping before we start the comics. So, yeah, we're getting there. I do want to remind everybody of the Words of the Witches store, where you can, get really cool designs and get them on t-shirts and mugs and stickers and all kinds of good stuff. I need to order some myself. I'm very excited about the designs we have, and I just want to throw it out there that, you can still go there, wordsofthewitches.threadless.com. Take a look to see if there's anything that interests you or if you have any suggestions for new merchandise. Cool. The next point of business that we have is Best Baddie Rankings. I didn't get a chance to cover my list last episode because we're running pretty long, so I'm going to go over my personal list, and then I'm going to go over the results because I did put Instagram stories up as well that had people vote. So let's get started.
Seems almost anticlimactic after all this time, doesn't it?
It was the only way to get their powers.
And now I want yours.
Darkest forces, let it be. Hear my plea, bring life to me.
You get lost or frozen in fear!
Best Baddie! So over the last 11 books, we had 16 different baddies on the list. Here are my top 10. In 10th place, I have Abigail Thornwood from Mystic Knoll, the witch practitioner who cursed the town. Number 9, I have Silas from Seasons of the Witch, Volume 1 in the Yule book. He was my top pick in Yule, the demon manager. Number 8, I have The Other from Survival of the Fittest, the one that was like the alien from another world that backhanded Meg Winship. Speaking of Meg Winship, she's number 7, the fitness founder, celebrity, pepper in her step kind of girl. Then I have 6 is Mr. Sigh and Mr. Tremble from Luck Be a Lady. Number 5, I have Malagon, the Dark Letter turned demon. Malagon's a dirty Thor. 4, I had Shax. 3rd place, I had Pearl Russell, the past life of Phoebe from the Warren Witches. Number 2 is Dale Allen from Pied Piper, the flautist. And then my number 1 was Gortag from Inherit the Witch because I thought he was just super powerful, super ingenious, and super cool. So yeah, that's my list. The other ones that I did not mention were To Shung from Truth and Consequences, Ned Hawkins from Luck Be a Lady, Tempest from The Brewing Storm, Maya from Changeling Places, The Power of Darkness from Truth and Consequences, and Lexor from Changeling Places. So those are the people that did not make my list. But now we will go over the official top 10 as voted by you guys on Instagram. Oh, this is going to be wild. I am noticing that this type of voting is flawed. This is the third time I'm doing this on Instagram, and I am finding that people do have a preference for demons that have been in the series, and I have had people admit to me that they're voting based off of how cool the picture is that I use. But here we are. I am going to honor the system that I put in place and the votes that were received. So here we go. So number 10 on the list is Gortag. My number 1, the one I love the most, is number 10 on your list with 13 votes from Inherit the Witch, little mini devil thing. Number 9 is Silas with 15 votes. Number 8 was Sigh and Tremble from Luck Be a Lady, 15 votes. Number 7 was Maya, the little cat burglar looking girl, with 16 votes. Number 6 is Ned Hawkins from Luck Be a Lady with 19 votes, the movie star Demon Man. Number 5 is Malagon, Dark Lair turned demon, with 20 votes from A Tale of Two Pipers. Number 4 was Tempest from the Brewing Storm, with all the controlling all the elementals. And to be fair, I did have a really cool picture for that. I really liked it. He had 27 votes. Number 3, now this blows my mind. The Power of Darkness is number 3 with 36 votes. This is from Truth and Consequences. I thought he did nothing worthwhile at all. But because I used a picture of the Woogie Man to highlight him, I think that's why he got so high. Number 2 was Pearl Russell, Phoebe's Past Life from the Warren Witches. She was like all over that book in multiple stories. And I really kind of wanted her to be number 1, but alas, she only made number 2 with 46 votes. And then number 1 from Charmed Again, all the way in book 11, the winner of last Best Baddie Rankings, is Shax. He is number 1 once again. People are obsessed with him, so Shax will live on to fight another round. Wow. So there you go. So yes, thank you for everyone who voted. And now we will get on with the rest of this episode. Alright, so this is episode 32 of Words of the Witches. My guest this week is Ian Shay of Maximus Literary. Hello.
What's up? Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks for coming out and stepping in when I was like really searching for somebody, really needing somebody.
Well, I've been telling you for a while that I'd love to come on, so I'm glad that the stars finally aligned on this one.
Yeah, because I was on was it a podcast or was it just questionnaire? I don't remember anymore now. But you asked me questions.
It was so long ago. No, that was when I was running my blog. I had interviewed you.
Yes.
And then we've kept in touch for almost 3 years now.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Talk about your job, because I ended up helping you for that too.
Yeah, you were a beta reader for one of my clients' books.
Yes. Your job is dealing with literature and books and things
all
like that.
day, every day.
So we are well into your world. I love that.
I know. This was perfect. I read books for a living, and I've been a huge fan of Charmed ever since it was first on the air. So being able to meld the two, this was very, very fortunate.
So did you start at the beginning of the show?
I probably started halfway through season 1.
Okay.
I was in school, and at the time, the big thing was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I loved Buffy, like so many people did. And a couple of my friends were telling me, oh, if you like Buffy, you're going to like this other show. It's called Charmed. It's got witches. It's got the girl from Who's the Boss. It's got one of the girls from Beverly Hills 90210. And that's at the time, those were the big frame of reference for Alyssa Milano and Shannon Doherty. And I saw an episode. And, back in season 1, it was very just kind of like Monster of the Week. But I was like, all right, this is cool. This is fun. And then as the seasons progressed and they had more kind of a centralized storyline, I thought it got even better.
So I'm trying to think, middle of season 1, that was probably around like Feats of Clay, The Wendigo from Fear to Eternity, one of those episodes.
I mean, it's been so long, I don't remember. When it was on the air, I didn't get to watch it weekly. But then when the series was on Netflix, which I don't think it is anymore.
It's not
But
anymore, but it did have a resurgence because of Netflix.
yeah, I was able to go back and watch all 8 seasons, and I did so multiple times.
Love it. Do you have a favorite character?
Piper.
Aha!
Hands down, it's got to be Piper. Like, she was, and I think it's because I think she had the most character development over 8 years. She went from being kind of timid, a little meeker, to being just a boss. She became like the ultimate mama bear, not just for her sisters, but for Leo and for Wyatt and Chris, and just everyone who was important to her. She went to full mama bear mode whenever anyone was in danger.
I really do usually root for those kinds of characters that have like a major growth. And that's why I think when he talked to you about Power Rangers and how I liked Billy, because he was kind of that same kind of thing where he was the one that couldn't fight and then was like buffer than Tommy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I could spend all day talking about Power Rangers, but
yeah, we do love the Power Rangers here.
I know it's not the point of this podcast. Maybe another time.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I guess we can get started with this. So this is the Queen's Curse.
It's funny because when I told you I was going to do this one, I immediately ordered the book online, and it got delivered to my house yesterday, and I read it. I read the majority of it just last night, and then I read like the last 3 chapters this morning because it was very engaging. It was really easy to get into.
I'm glad. And most people, I mean, you listen to the podcast, but most people who end up on the show are like really happy with the book. They're like, this was such a great journey. So
yeah, it felt very true to the show. Because I haven't read all the books. I know you've read almost all of them at this point,
right.
But some of the people who have written charmed novels, it feels like they didn't really have a good sense of who the characters were. Mm-hmm. It was like, have you ever seen the show? But it really felt like this author, it really felt like she was a fan of the show. It felt like she understood the characters. She knew how they talked. She knew how they talked with each other. The dialogue felt very authentic to the source material.
Oh, good. I felt that too. So I'm glad. We're going to get into it. Okay. So this is The Queen's Curse. It has season 6 promotional pictures. Piper is in the center, which is a little odd because I think it's more of a Paige story, but sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Phoebe's got her pixie cut. It's in their little white and gold outfits. And then there's like a grand castle in the background with some greenery and trees.
I'm not gonna lie, it's not my favorite cover. It felt a little just generic castle.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't anything that I think really represented the fairy tale, everything seems perfect vibe of this book. Mm-hmm. And I was a little disappointed, I won't lie.
Yeah, because some of these covers are really kind of cool and have like the subliminal messaging and things, and this one is just kind of there. It is better than the last one, Changeling Places, because that was super generic with just purple clouds, but still not the greatest. It has the tagline, "If it seems too good to be true." Yeah, and then the back of the book has more greenery. It has a little bit of like purple flowers in there too. And then the back says, "While trouble brews, a ring is placed, but evil may have hidden its face. A perfect prince and love's true tale show the secrets we must not fail. Paige has finally met her Prince Charming. Funny, smart, sweet, and beyond good looking. Colin is fantastic. By the time he's gotten her phone number, Paige is completely smitten. And he isn't evil, which is definitely a plus. In fact, he seems pretty much perfect. After just a few dates, Colin asks Paige to marry him, and she accepts. The last thing she expects to find out is that not only is Colin really a prince of a magical kingdom, no less, but he's already engaged. What? So what else is Prince Perfect hiding? Apparently that there are major dark forces gathering to overtake his kingdom, Tarsina, thereby upsetting the balance of good and evil in the world. The only way Colin can save his realm is to marry a magical being by his 25th birthday, which is next week. Enter Paige and exit Corinne, Colin's real true love. When Leo confirms all this with the elders, the Charmed Ones kick into high gear. It's off to Tarsina, but will there be a royal wedding or a royal disaster?
Dun dun dun.
Oh yeah, there you go.
All right, so I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit, but can we talk about the fact that the description on the back of the book actually isn't accurate?
It's not accurate, yeah. Yeah. There's things in there that I don't know if they just tried to like spruce it up, but because she does not accept his proposal right there.
That was the first thing that stuck out to me when he proposes. She says no.
She says no. But we'll get into it. We're going to do it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
It's okay. So the author was Emma Harrison, we discussed. She wrote several books before this. She wrote Garden of Evil, Something Wicked This Way Comes. She wrote Yule in the Seasons of the Witch anthology. And then she wrote A Tale of Two Pipers. So she's been a key player in this. It was published July 26th, 2005, and then reprinted September 5th, 2005. This is the 30th officially numbered book in the series because the two anthology books that have multiple short stories are technically not numbered. And so this is the 30th book, but we are in episode 32 because we covered the other ones. And it's supposed to take place between season 6, episode 4, The Power of Three Blondes, and season 6, episode 11, Witchstock. So it's kind of right in the early-ish to mid season 6. I personally would put this between The Power of Three Blondes, episode 4, and Love's a Witch, episode 5 of season 6, because anything after that would have Richard in the picture for Paige, and yeah. So, did you want to do odds or evens for the chapters?
I will do evens.
Okay. So, I'll start chapter 1. So, chapter 1, Paige is temping for an artist named Artemis. How very literal. And she is walking down the street with a box of ping pong balls because he said, "Go fetch my ping pong balls that I ordered." And as she's walking down the street, a group of teen girls bump into her and cause her to fall, spilling ping pong balls all across the street, all everywhere. But this blonde beauty of a man helps Paige to her feet. He's like, "Let me help you." And then she is like stunned. She's like speechless. She's looking at him. She's like, ah. He introduces himself as Colin. Paige does the same, and she shakes his hand, which makes her weak in the knees. She's like, oh. She's like having an orgasm right there on the street. So Colin seems very interested in Paige, and she gives him her phone number. He's like, "I'm going to ask you out later." Yeah. After a moment, she thinks about how she's going to pick up this ping pong mess. And this is actually a really kind of cool visual that I have pictured, because she like calls for all the balls, and then every scattered ball kind of like orbs to her hand, and then she moves it into the box.
Was that something she was able to do at this point in the series? Because
Yeah.
I remember she could summon stuff like individually. I don't remember her calling multiple objects simultaneously.
Right. I don't know if she's ever... I think because it would be too expensive for budget-wise to do on the show.
Probably.
But I think she would have been capable of doing it. Because, you know, when she did crystals where she could or multiple crystals at the same time. She did crystals, and then she did like a circle. So all five.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So she did that. But I think like something like this would have been really expensive to do, but it would have been really cool to see. I don't know why I wouldn't have it worked like this, but I always picture like little balls of light just kind of zipping to her like zip, 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 zip. But it wouldn't actually work like that. But that's how I wanted it to work like.
No, I got it. Yeah.
So
visually, that would look really cool.
Yeah, I just picture it, and then, but I feel like because she looked around, she's like, "I'm gonna look to see if nobody is around," and then she does it. But I'm like, it's a busy street. Like somebody is bound to see that somewhere.
See, I pictured it as more just kind of like down an alleyway than in like a busy street. So she like has her back to the main street, and then she's facing like the abandoned alley. I feel like that's the only way you could really like justify it.
Yeah, that's better, and that's typical Charmed fashion too, down the alleyway.
Yeah.
so okay. But yeah, she gets the big ping pong balls back in the box, and then Artemis, the artist, shouts from the window. He's like, "Hey!" and he calls her like Patricia. "Hey, Patricia!" She's like, it's Paige. He's like, get your ass up here. And so she's like, okay. And then it cuts past that. So I guess we're over that. It cuts to her returning home from a date with Colin. So it goes from her meeting him to already having a date with him. She's like, I had the most amazing time. Love it. Are you going to kiss me? So she's like, I really want him to kiss me. And then Colin's like, the evening was magical. And she's like, oh, you just said magical. You must be evil. Why would you say that?
Given the sisters' track record, it really wasn't that far-fetched that, like, oh, this guy who seems too good to be true, what if he's a demon? What if he's a warlock? Yeah. But at least she was smart enough to, like her spidey sense was tingling. She was ready for it.
She was very smart, very ingenious the way she did it, handled things, because she didn't call him out right away, and she didn't, like, destroy possible love interest. She's just like, I'm thrown off by this word, but she's like, okay, I'm going to contemplate that you might be evil. And she's like, Colin, could you wait by the door? I really love you to meet my sisters. I'm going to see if they're home. So he's like, sure, I'd love to meet your sisters. And she's like, of course you would, you demon dirtbag, whatever.
She's ready for it.
Yeah.
She's hoping for the best, but she's prepared for the worst.
Exactly. You got it. So Piper and Phoebe are looking after Wyatt in the manor. And then Phoebe is trying to get Wyatt to give her a ball so that they can play together. And Wyatt's like, all with this ball. He's like, no, this is my ball. I don't want to play with you. So then Wyatt orbs his teddy bear to her instead. She's like, here, play with this. If you want to play so badly. So that was pretty cute. Now Paige comes into the room and she's like, hey, I think this guy Colin might be evil. You want to, like, help me? Let's check it out. So Piper and Phoebe perform the enchantment spell on Paige's sunglasses, which we've seen before. So they enchant the sunglasses. Paige goes to bring Colin inside, and Piper puts the sunglasses they just enchanted on, and she's going to, like, watch to see if he, like, looks like an evil, grotesque monster underneath it all. And then Paige brings Colin into the room, and Piper's like, oh my God!
At this point in their lives, they are so jaded. The fact that this guy isn't evil, like, he's not a demon or a warlock or anything, that's the surprising thing to them.
I know. But I love it, because she's like, oh my God. And Phoebe's like, what is it? Is he evil? Is he hideous? Tell me what it is. and she can't say it out loud. She's like whispering to Charles, what is it? So it was a very humorous scene. I was just picturing something so funny and so amazing. And Piper's like, no, he's human, but I didn't expect him to be so gorgeous. Like, he's so attractive. My basement just flooded. Oh my gosh. And Phoebe rolls her eyes and she's like, hi, I'm Phoebe. And this is when Colin, he sees Wyatt down there. He's like, oh, and he's like super sweet to Wyatt. He's being like that super cool with kids kind of guy, which makes you fall in love with him even more. And there's no force field, which is another plus, because if he was evil, Wyatt would have been like, get away from me. Piper silently mouths her emphatic approval to Paige. She's like, he is perfect. And she's like, I know. And Paige is just thrilled to think that she found the perfect man. And that's how that chapter ended.
I like the chapter because it sets the stage for everything.
It does.
And even like the way Phoebe was interacting with Wyatt, that's exactly how she would do it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt very authentic.
Very charmed. It was everything fell into place with that chapter.
Like, I could completely see how it would play out on screen had they adapted this into, an actual episode. So chapter 2, Paige and Colin are on date number 4.
Yeah, they
it's the third date in 4 days.
Yes.
It was day 4, but date number 3. And they're at a baseball game, and Colin is like, yeah, I've actually never been to one of these before. I've been too busy with the family business.
Family business.
At which point Paige doesn't say, oh, what is the family business? Like, they're on date number 3 and she still has no idea what his occupation is.
Exactly.
but they have like amazing seats, like right on.
Yeah, those like box seats or whatever.
Yeah, those really, really expensive seats.
She's
And
like, how did you get these? Are you rich? He's like, no, these are friend seats. She's like, oh, okay.
We never do find out how we got the seats.
No, we don't.
Just gotta point that out. And a fly ball comes just hurling at Paige's face, and of course she wants to immediately like orb the ball, but she knows that she can't. She's in public, so she's like she can't move, and she's bracing to get hit in the face by a baseball. And then Colin like just shoves out his hand, catches it.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh my god, he's so perfect. He saved me from a broken nose."
I just picture it, like, cause have you ever like caught flies out of the air? It's like it's kind of one of those reactions. And then I think they described his hand being like all red. After that, it's like, look, my hand is all red because I caught that ball with my bare hands.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a baseball being hit by a professional Major League Baseball player, and he's catching it with his bare hand. It's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Phoebe working on the column for it's the Bay Mirror, right?
Yes.
That's who she was working for, and she's given this woman advice because she's in a good relationship, but then an ex-boyfriend wants her back, and she's writing out her advice, and she's like, I don't know, am I being too harsh? And Wyatt just kind of looks at her, and she's like, all right.
Giggles.
Yeah. And she's like, all right, well, based on the fact that you're a baby and you're looking at me, clearly I'm being too harsh.
Yeah.
And then Leo comes in, and he's all happy to see Wyatt, and kind of like starts playing with him a little bit. And then Leo's orbing in, so naturally he has to give bad news.
Yeah.
And it's all these weird storms that are happening in Switzerland, and obviously that's going to have something to do with the main story. And then it kind of just cuts to Paige and Colin on, I don't know if it's a continuation of the date or if this is like another date that they're on. I was a little unclear about that, but they're having dinner, and she's head over heels for this guy, so she's already picturing, like, all right, what would my wedding dress look like? What would the wedding look like?
Yeah.
What are our kids gonna look like? And then he gets on one knee and proposes, because that's something that you do after less than a week.
Yeah. It's like, well, like, so chapter 3 is because the chapter 2 ends with like, what will she say? The proposal. Oh,
well, based on the back of the book,
I know.
She says yes.
Right. That's so. Chapter 3. Paige wanted to say yes, but told Colin it just seemed too fast because she's rational. She's like, I really like you, but I don't know. This is a little crazy to me.
She is smart. She's a smart character.
Yeah, smart cookie. This Paige, and suddenly a blonde woman named Corinne comes up to Colin in shock. She's like, what? She's like, I'm Colin's fiance. And Paige is like, you're Colin's fiance? Question mark. He just proposed to me. And then Corinne tells Colin, she's like, you could have at least told me you're proposing to Paige today. Like, what an odd thing to say.
Not the typical reaction.
Yeah, she's like, she's not getting the same anger that you would expect. Everybody else at the restaurant was like, just like watching them like, what is going on? Because they're all getting ready to congratulate Paige. And then this other woman comes up like, oh my, the scandal. And so they're all looking at them. And Paige is just aghast. And she's like, leaves. She's like, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. She's like, I don't have time for this kind of crazy. Colin and Corinne follow Paige, and Colin's like, let me explain. So he's like, yes, Corinne is my fiance, but I can't get married to her. And then Colin's like, I'm a witch. I'm from a magical town, a magical village, a magical kingdom, and I'm required to marry another magical being in order to protect the kingdom. And Corinne here is not magical. And she's like, yeah, I'm not magical, so whatever. And he's like, I am the prince of the kingdom of Tarsana. And if he is not married to a magical person by his 25th birthday, all mortals in his kingdom will die. And since Corinne is immortal, she should probably die too. Oh, yeah, they were cursed by his great-great-grandmother, this kind of a crotchety queen that liked it her way. Paige was angered that she was being used. So, she just want to marry me to use me? This, I don't know, I'm just like a tool for your little game. And she's like upset a little bit, but then she's like, but then I see the love between you two, and it's pretty beautiful. So we'll think about it. And Paige, she's like, come with me. She grabs Colin and Corinne, and they orb to the manor. And then at the manor, Piper, Phoebe, and Leo are talking about the weirdness in Switzerland. It's like the news on the TV is saying there's storms are crazy. Leo's saying the elders say there's dark energy a brewing. So we got to figure out what this is all about. And then Paige arrives with the new guest. She's like, hey, everybody, here's some people that I just met. After everyone is on the same page, Colin says that Tarsana is invisible to mortals, but many of the citizens would venture out and bring mortals in. Like, we like to go see what the real world is like and see what the human world is like. And, occasionally we'll fall in love with mortals because why not? And so they come in with us.
I love the fact that Leo was like, "Oh, Tarsana's real? What's it like there?"
I know. He's like, I thought this was a myth. I'm like, oh my gosh. I hate when they do this on the show. Like, I was like, I thought this was a myth. By now, you should just assume that all myths are real.
Yeah, at this point, like, if it was season 1 or season 2,
sure,
you could get away with like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that was real, but at this point, and not to mention for Leo to say it, because
I know, of all people,
he's
been around the block.
Yeah, like he's supposed to be the guy who like basically knows everything, and he's like, wow, that's real. Like, come on, Leo, you're better than this.
Yeah, that was a little off on that one. So Colin's grandma lady queen that did not like mortals being brought in, she was like, well, I can't stop people from going out and bringing people in, but I'm going to make sure that my bloodline is pure magical. None of this mixing, this crossbreeding stuff, that's not happening in my family. So she cursed the town, the kingdom, to ensure that her bloodline remained magical. And that's why she has this curse on there. So Colin and Corinne have run out of options because he's like, we're in love, but if we get married, it's, too bad for my kingdom. So we agreed that, we'll marry Paige here. Paige can help us. She's our only hope.
Help me, Paige Matthews. You're my only hope.
Exactly. So Paige feels a lot of pressure. She's like, this is a lot on my plate. This is a lot for me to accept. You think about it, it's a lot to sacrifice. So, but she's like, okay, I'm not making any decisions right now, but I'll agree to go see your village, your kingdom, and we'll wing it and see how I feel later. So she agrees to go there and scope things out, and everybody, the whole family, goes with her. So they send Wyatt to be babysat by the elders, which is a little odd for me.
Yeah, that part kind of threw me, because I don't remember a time in the show where the elders expressed a whole lot of interest in babysitting.
No.
Like, they were the ones who were very anti-Leo and Piper. They were very against Piper getting pregnant. But it's like, I don't know, did one of the elders get named the Godfather? And so like now he's cool with Wyatt? Like, but I get it, like for like the story's sake, they can't be bringing the baby all around, so they basically have to put him off screen, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they just didn't mention Victor.
I don't know why they didn't bring in the
Elf Nanny.
Thank you.
Yeah. They could have had Elf Nanny because she came in Power of Three Blondes. She was still around this time, or they could have got Victor. Yeah, either one of those would have worked better than the elders, I think. But
yeah,
Wyatt gets taken up there, and they go on their way to see the kingdom of Tarsana.
And chapter 4 opens with like they orb to Switzerland and they get caught in like the giant like
storm
hurricane monsoon thing, and the sisters and Leo are all very unhappy about it. And then Colin and Corinne are just standing there like, yeah, everything's cool. What's wrong, guys? And then Colin basically just like waves his hand, and like the magical veil opens into this just medieval Disney fantasy where you've got like the women in like the corsets and gowns, and stuff's getting brought around by like oxen, but then you have like a random kid on his Game Boy.
I know. People wearing like Grateful Dead t-shirts and stuff. Like...
It's like, everything looks like your typical like medieval European,
and then occasional weird
town. And then, you got someone wearing khakis and apparently they have decent Wi-Fi.
Yeah, they have internet now. So it is a weird blending of...
Yeah. And then Phoebe is... she's got her empathic powers going, and she can both feel the fact that, like, the villagers are really worried about this curse, but then when they see Colin, they really do love him. Mm-hmm. Like, he's clearly a benevolent member of the royal family. I actually really appreciated how they kind of showed that rather than just making it like unnecessary exposition. I'm always a big fan of showing instead of telling.
I mean, that's the way to go, really.
Yeah. And then there's this like random old dude, and like he sees Colin, and all Phoebe gets is just this wave of hatred. Like it's just like all like evil black magic, like all sorts of negative vibes off this guy, and like to the point that like it makes her feel kind of like sick.
Yeah. And she mentions it to Colin, and Colin's like, oh yeah, he's a loyalist. He's one of those people who wants to just, kill off the mortals, as you do. And it's like, wait, what? Yeah, he wants this curse to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pro curse. Which is like the first sign that like clearly this little fairy tale world is not all it's cracked up to be. And then they go to the castle and they meet Colin's parents, the king and queen, and there's this really cute little exchange between the sisters. Like, oh, the queen? Oh yeah, she's evil. This place is a fairy tale. The queen is clearly evil.
Right.
And I just thought it was a really funny line because it's another one of those interactions where like you can totally picture Holly Marie Combs and Alyssa Milano having that exchange on screen. Like you can totally picture it.
They give each other that look like
give each other a little side eye like, girl, right? Yeah, I know. So, and the weird thing is Corinne is with them this entire time.
Until they get to the castle.
Doesn't she go into the castle with them?
No, she leaves. No. When the carriage comes to pick them up, she's like, "This is where I leave you."
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they go in, and Colin's like, "Hey, mom. Hey, dad. Here's my potential bride, but the woman that I really love, she just left, so it's good."
Yep.
And
you don't know her.
And the king has heard of the Charmed Ones, because of course he has. And yeah, they're not getting good vibes off the queen. And then the queen gives Paige this really beautiful like rune necklace. It's like, here you go, you're going to be my daughter-in-law, so, this is yours now. And Paige is like, all right, cool. I haven't said yes yet, but all right.
Yeah. And the queen's like, she's like, I know you haven't said yes, but, if you decide to change your mind, you can just simply return it to me, and it's all fair. But I want you to wear this at the ball. I want you to show the kingdom that he's got a fiance. She's like, oh, all right, whatever you want, queen.
And yeah, there's something about how the necklace, it gets passed down from like queen to princess to the next princess. It's clearly one of those,
traditions,
heirlooms.
Yeah. The queen's rude. Oh. All right. So chapter 5. Colin takes the sisters to their quarters. Here's where you will sleep. He's like, you're going to come to the ball, right? Here's your gowns to change into, be fancy. Colin tells Paige that if she agrees to marry him, she won't even have to live here. It's like, it won't affect your life at all. You just have to come for, holidays and special events. That's all. You can orb here. It's fine.
Oh, long distance marriage.
Yeah, that's it. Long distance marriage. Oh, and we just we'll have a baby. We'll have a baby in a few years. That's it. All you have to do. She's like, oh, okay. Only within the next couple years. That's all.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be today, but if you could make it really, really quick, that'd be awesome.
Exactly. Colin is committed to his duty and his people, even if it's not what he wants. He's like, I know you're not my love, but I love my people far too much to let them down. And Paige admires that because she's like, oh, okay. I'm a little overwhelmed by this baby thing, but I do admire your dedication. Piper and Phoebe know Paige is not ready for any of this, but Leo likes to point out, it's like, hey, don't forget that if she doesn't marry him, a bunch of people will die. Like, thanks.
No pressure.
Phoebe decides to try to get a hold of these loyalists because perhaps they are aware of a loophole to the curse. She's like, if they really want it to happen, they must have all their cards. So let's see if we can find out something from them. So Paige and Leo go to the ball while Piper and Phoebe go off into the streets to like do some investigating. And Piper and Phoebe disguise themselves in cloaks because that's what you do.
The cloaks that they just happened to conveniently find on the way out.
Yeah. They are walking the streets and they're noticing just like how freely magic is practiced here. People are just using the magic all the time. It's like, I thought of like the scene in X-Men where like they're all in the courtyard and all the kids are like playing basketball and using the powers. Like this is like Xavier's Institute. It's the streets.
It's the X-Mansion of witches.
Yeah. So, and they're kind of a little bit jealous. She's like, man, they don't have to hide their powers here. Oh, maybe we should move here. And Piper's like, no, we can't do that. Don't be crazy. There's a really cool moment here where like a girl loses her balloon and it's like starts to fly into the sky, and Phoebe's like, I'll get that. She levitates into the air and she's like, here you go, little girl. and then everyone's just like, they're not shocked, they're not appalled, they're just like so grateful, like, thank you. And she's like, wow, how cool is this?
She doesn't have to hide anything. She can levitate all she wants, and everyone's just like, cool.
Yeah. Nobody bats an eye. Like, you're awesome, lady. Now Piper and Phoebe follow some shady-looking people into a pub. They're like, those must be loyalists. Let's go follow them. And they go into the pub and they like sit down. They like just try to blend in, and they eavesdrop and find out that the loyalists intend to try to scare Paige away from marrying Colin. We've gotten into the palace before. We have our ways. We can probably do this. And then they toast to a man called Sinjin, which I guess is their leader. So like, to Sinjin, he will make this right. Haha. The barmaid comes to take the order, but then she realizes that she doesn't recognize the sisters. She's like, who are you people? Get out of here. As they kick them out, and everyone cheers like, haha, hurrah. And then it cuts to the dance, the ball that everyone's happening. And everyone is like enchanted to be a professional dancer. So like,
it's such a very specific spell to cast, like on the ballroom.
Yeah. So everyone who enters this is just like, we can dance. Everybody look at our pants, that type of thing. And
then it looks like one of those over choreographed scenes from like a movie or something, and everyone knows all the steps.
Yes, it's the Cinderella scene. So Paige meets the citizens, so she starts to get to know them and like get a feel for who they are, and she's like, I'm really bonding. And then they step away. Colin and Paige like step out of the crowd, and they have like a little moment. It's a really nice moment, actually. Colin tells Paige how much his people mean to him, and he also like sees Paige's feelings. He knows how scary this is for her, and he's like, I can't offer my true love, but I promise that I'll be the best husband I can be. I'll respect you, and I'll help you whatever you need to the best of my abilities. I'll do what you need to do. And Paige is really moved by his actions, and she officially agrees to marry him then.
Like, I feel like if this were an episode, it would have to be a two-parter, and this would be the end of episode 1.
Exactly.
And then episode 2 would pick up with the beginning of chapter 6.
I feel
the sisters they're having a little powwow the following morning. They're in Paige's bedroom, and Paige hasn't actually told them that she said yes. She they're talking about what Piper and Phoebe found out, and then Piper, being the older sister, being the really, really smart one, she's like, hey, what's that enormous rock on your finger?
Yeah. I was like, hello.
And Paige is like, oh, did I not mention that? Yeah, I told Colin that I'd be his wife. And I'm cool with the fact that he loves Corinne and not me. And yeah, that's all fine. And Piper and Phoebe obviously they're like, well, wait, what the hell? Like, just yesterday, you were saying, I don't think I can do this, and now you're saying yes. You must be under a spell.
Right.
But there is no spell.
Right. They quickly are like, oh, okay, I guess this is her own choice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it feels very true to Paige's character, not just in the book, but in the series as a whole. The fact that she's putting the needs of the many, all the
Exactly.
people in this kingdom, she's putting their needs and their safety ahead of her own personal happiness, which is it's admirable.
Yeah, and Paige is very headstrong like that. Once she makes a decision, she's pretty gung ho about it. So.
And there's even a quick scene between Piper and Phoebe where they acknowledge that. They're like, this is Paige. We know her.
Yeah.
Once she says she's going to do something, we're not going to change her mind.
Exactly.
No one's going to convince her to do it otherwise. So, and then Paige, she hangs out with Colin and Corinne, which is like the most awkward double date ever.
Because I guess Corinne comes in here. I'm like, oh, I guess she works for the castle. I didn't know this before. So this was a new revelation to me.
Yeah, it was a little bit unclear like how she got back, but it was one of those things you kind of just got to go with it.
Yeah,
essentially.
With it, yeah.
And then when Colin and Corinne are getting all cutesy and romantic, they decide they're going to go on a stroll.
Yeah, because they're with her father. Corinne and her father are there.
Yes, yeah, because her father is Richmond, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Paige is getting to know her sister wife's father. And he's a good guy. He's acknowledging the fact that this is a very difficult situation for her to be put in, and he's basically just trying to let her know that he recognizes it and he appreciates everything that she's doing, especially for a kingdom that it's not hers. These are not her people. This isn't San Francisco. Piper gets mad at Leo because Leo was supposed to be with Paige all last night, and Piper's like, Leo, why did you let Paige say yes? And he's like, what do you want me to do? It's Paige. Paige is gonna Paige.
Yeah.
And then when they're in the castle again, and they see Colin and Corinne, and like, where's Paige? Where's our sister? Like, they immediately jump to the worst case scenario. They're like, you did something with her.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, she wanted to be by herself. And then Leo uses his magic white lighter powers and senses her all the way back at the manor.
Yeah.
And she's going through the Book of Shadows, which I'm surprised that it took them this long to consult the Book of Shadows. Because usually when they hear the word curse or something, they immediately run up to the attic, like, all right, what does the book say?
Right. They went to the kingdom before they even looked at the book, which was
Like, what if there was something in the book that said, Tarsana, don't go. You won't come back.
Exactly.
Like, it did feel a little bit weird that they waited this long to check the book. But there's nothing there. And Paige, she's all upset. She's been crying, and she's just angry about the whole situation. This guy that she thought could have been perfect for her does want to marry her, but he's not actually in love with her. He's in love with this other woman.
And then the fact that she sees how well, because she knows that they love each other, and then she's sad for them. She's very empathetic to them.
Yeah, because that's who Paige is. She thinks about other people. It's never just about her. Even when it's about her, it's not just about her. And then the sisters have their, we all love each other moment, and just kind of reaffirming that, whatever you decide, we're going to be here for you. But like, please don't make this decision that you've already made. But if you do, we'll go with it. But we don't like it, so please don't do it.
Yeah.
And that's basically where the chapter ends.
I really loved that little scene. I thought it was very moving to me. Like, it was really, I'm going to read a part of it just because. It says, Piper's eyes were full of tears, but she was smiling. I was just thinking that you are one strong witch. And Phoebe's like, and I was just thinking about how proud I am of my little sister. Thanks, guys, Paige said, a tear slipping down her cheek. You have no idea how much that means to me. Phoebe and Piper both grabbed Paige from either side and hugged her tight, squeezing her eyes shut against the pain in her chest. Phoebe promised herself that she would be there for her Paige over the next few days, no matter what. That's what Sisters of Future Princesses were for. Oh!
Love it.
It's really sweet, and there's a little bit of comedy in there earlier too. Like it's felt very authentic.
Yeah, it is a very emotional scene, um, but they have to get in that little bit of, I don't know, sarcasm, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah.
because even though they're very close and they're very emotional, it's like they recognize that getting overly emotional isn't the best way to
Hmm.
handle it. So it's like trying to cut the tension, essentially.
And that's very charming too. They do that all the time in the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, chapter 7. Paige is trying on her custom wedding gown. Yeah, the seamstress is there. The magical seamstress is there. and she's like getting it all fitted for her. And she's like magically moving things around her body. I don't know. And Corinne was there too. And she's like, she's like hurting because she's getting married to the man I love, but I'm supportive of you. And Corinne being around, she thinks it will be good for her. She's like, I need to see this. It's fine. And Marjorie is the seamstress, and she like conjures. She's like, this dress is missing something, so she conjures like pink ribbons into the air, and then she's like, magically moves them around to her dress, and she's like, that's better, perfect.
The fact that Paige doesn't stop her is a
I
little
know.
bit surprising.
I
Paige
know.
is not the pink ribbon type.
No, she's like, but she'll go with it. Then the florist comes in. He's like, here's all the arrangement options. You can choose this one or this one or this one or this one. And Paige's like, let Corinne pick, let her pick because it should be her day anyway. And so Colin loves these wildflowers because that's what he loves, whatever. And then
like digging the knife in, like, and it's
I
not
know.
on purpose, but
No.
like Paige recognizes the fact that like Corinne even knows which of these arrangements to go with based on Colin. I have no
right.
idea what his favorite flowers are, and this woman does because
Mhm.
she knows those kind of little details. So it's
Yeah.
just digging at her even more, even though Corinne's not doing it maliciously.
It's a hard thing all around. Okay, so then Piper, Phoebe, and Leo go back to St. John's pub. That's the loyalist pub they were kicked out of earlier. And they tell the barmaid that kicked them out. She's like, we want to speak to Sinjin. And she's like, oh, yeah? Well, they have a meeting in the back. Fine. But you'll have to prove yourself. And so, like, okay. So they go back there, and there's a guard there. And he's like, prove yourself. So they have to showcase their powers to get in. They have to prove that they're magical. So it's a kind of a fun little thing. Like Piper blows up a chair, and what's Phoebe? Oh, Phoebe levitates a little bit.
Phoebe
and then,
levitates,
yeah,
and
then
Leo orbs behind the guy.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Well done." Yeah. So they get in. Piper, Phoebe, and Leo stood in the back, and so like there's a whole. It's like this like man like on a stage, and all the people are like, "Yeah!" And so they're in the back of the crowd, and they see this guy, and it's Sinjin. He's like, I'm maniacal. I'm bigoted. I'm going to preach about killing all the mortals. Ha ha ha. And they learn from the speech that it was the loyalists' ideal all along to send Corinne to fall in love with Colin. So this was all a plan. Oh my goodness gracious. But they failed to consider that his dedication to his kingdom. They thought once they got them in love that he'd just like marry her and let the curse happen. But no, he's not backing down. So they're mad. So Sinjin's like, I sent a letter to Corinne instructing her to kill Paige. Ha ha ha! She's gonna do it. Phoebe freaks out. She's like, no! I was like, no. And he's like, what? Who defies me? And Phoebe's like, oh, well, no, I just don't trust Corinne to do it. She makes up an excuse like, I'm regretting my outburst now, so let's just make it sound like something else. And then Leo backs her up. She's like, yeah, that's what it is. I work for the prince, so maybe I feel he's not in his right mind, so yeah, that's us. And Sinjin's like, oh, we're the prince. Well, if you're really on our side, why don't you go follow Corinne and make sure that she kills Paige and follows through? That's your duty. I assign you stuff.
You two random people who I've never seen before.
Exactly. It's like, you're in for the cause, so yeah, here, you get tasks with duties now. And then they leave with Piper and Orr back to the palace. So.
And then that's where chapter 8 picks up, and they immediately orb into Paige's room, and she's not there, and they're trying to find her, and Piper's like yelling at Colin and like, "Where's Paige? Where's my sister?" And he's like, "What? She's hanging out with Corinne. They're riding horses." And of
Having
course,
a good old time.
yeah, he's like, they're chilling. They're being friends. And Piper tells him like, no, that's not okay. Corinne has been sent here to kill Paige. And she's like, we're gonna go get her sister, and then you and me are gonna have words.
Mm-hmm.
And then Leo once again senses Paige and orbs over to him. And Paige and Corinne, they're riding their horses, they're going through the woods, and Paige is starting to be like, oh my god, if I wasn't with Corinne, I would think this is a little bit weird because we're out here in the middle of nowhere, but I'm with Corinne, so I'm safe.
Exactly.
And like and like just when it seems like Corinne is about to she's about to do or say something, like it's not clear if she's about to just fess up or if she's about to actually try to hurt Paige. It's really not clear.
They go from like laughing to like she's like it's just very serious. She's like, Paige, I got something to tell you. So you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? Yeah.
So I mean, I'd like to think Corinne was about to be like, oh, just so you know, these people are like telling me that I need to kill you, but I don't plan on it. Mm-hmm. But you know, even though we're out here in the middle of nowhere and you're in a different realm and everything, don't worry, you're safe.
Yeah.
Phoebe and Piper and Leo come in and they immediately declare that, you know, Corinne's a threat. She's out here. She's working for the Loyalists. You can't trust her. And Corinne immediately gets arrested, and Paige is like, no, not my new friend who I've known for like 2 days. Like, she can't be trying to hurt me.
Exactly. So chapter 9, Paige goes to visit Corinne in her cell. She's like, this can't be right. So she's like, I need to talk to her. And Corinne admits everything. She's like, yes, the Loyalists sent me. I was supposed to fall in love with Colin. But, you know, she's like, I was blackmailed into seducing Colin because they want me to allow the curse. And Paige was all confused. She's like, but if you're non-magical, you'd die in the curse too. And that's what I was thinking before. I'm like, what? That would be so stupid.
Yeah.
But then she's like, oh no, they offered me and my family like protection. I'm like, okay. I don't think they would offer you protection, but they just told you that. But sure.
I feel like they would tell her that she's protected, but they wouldn't actually have a way to do it.
Right.
Like, they would clearly double-cross her in the end.
Exactly. So, yeah, tough bargain you had there. Corinne admits that she was instructed to kill her, too. She's like, I did get a letter to kill you, but I wasn't going to go through with it. So she, like, warns Paige to be careful. She's like, now that they know that I'm arrested, they're going to send somebody else to do the job. So be on the lookout. Paige tells Colin about Corinne's actions, and he is appalled. She's like, I loved her. I trusted her. How could she do this to me? And Paige, she's like, tells Colin, she's like, I do believe Corinne loves you. She was just in a bad situation. He's a little on the edge now, Colin is. So, just then the Queen, his mother, comes into the room and assures all that Corinne will be punished for her betrayal. She's going to get the worst punishment ever. And she instructs Colin not to see Corinne until after the wedding. And then she keeps Paige heavily guarded in her room. She's like, you will be ultra protected in here. No one will get to you. I'm like, all right. Mm-hmm. Leo and Phoebe go back to St. John and inform him of Corinne's arrest. He is furious. He's like, what? How awful this is. And then he's like, okay, well, she's gone. She's out of the picture. You two got to kill Paige now. He's like, bring me her head. So then Leo and Phoebe return to the palace, and they tell Piper that what they told her to do. And she's like, are you kidding me? She's like, she's like, no, we need to get out of here right now. This is getting too out of hand. I do not like this. But everyone like tells her, she's like, no, we have to stay because we just can't leave. We have to figure out a better plan, like right now. And Piper's like, oh my God, fine.
You know it's bad when even Piper's like, this is too crazy.
It's a hard thing.
Yeah. So beginning of chapter 10, it's the wedding day. That they've been waiting for so long, so long, like 4 days.
Yeah.
And all the citizens, everyone's all happy because they know that the curse is about to, you know, not kill them. Phoebe and Leo, they go back to St. John, and their big master plan. This is not one of their better plans. They go to St. John and they say, so here's the thing, we did kill her, but we couldn't actually like get out of there with her head. So here's her big necklace. So like we're good, right? You
Yeah.
believe us? We're all set.
Phoebe's like holding a sack, like a little bag with the necklace in there. He's like, that doesn't look like a head to me. Like, no, like this.
And Sinjin, not being completely stupid, is like, all right, so you're claiming you got this from Paige. All right, clearly you are not with us. You're clearly outsiders. Because if you knew anything, you would know that only the person wearing the rune can actually take it off. You did not remove this from her dead body. And I know this because my sister, the queen, is the one who gave it to her. And that's the big reveal that Sinjin is the queen's brother and that they've been working together.
Right.
Because the queen isn't just, a little bit bitchy. She wants this curse to happen. She's all on board with her great grandmother's plan of killing off all the mortals.
Yeah, and if they did kill Paige too, he said that the necklace would like go back to the previous one. So it would have gone back to her anyway.
Yeah, if Paige died, then yeah, it would immediately, I don't know, magically orb over to back to the queen. Phoebe gets in a little bit of her self-defense classes, but she's with Leo, so he automatically orbs them out of there. And then we see the queen going into Paige's room, and it's like, oh yeah, everything's good, everything's fine, you got nothing to worry about.
Let me look at you. Let me look at you. Let me see your face.
And then she has it's a cheesy line. She goes, "You would have made such a spectacular bride." It's like, ah.
She's like, what do you mean would have made? What?
She knocks Paige unconscious, and
like her powers are something like that makes people unconscious. Like her eyes go black, and she's like, "Ooh, I got my power on you," and then they black out.
I couldn't tell if she like hit Paige over the head or if it was just like, oh, my power is to make you fall asleep. I wasn't totally clear.
Because she did it to all the guards too. So apparently she can like do something with her eyes that like knocks them out. Like it just has some kind of energy or something, and it's like, ugh, and they pass out. So
yeah, because when Leo and Piper and Phoebe show up, all the guards are unconscious.
Right.
And then Colin shows up and he's like, "What's going on?" And they tell him like, "Your mother's evil." No, my mom's not evil. She's just, she's set in her ways. And so, they start running around the castle trying to find Paige. Leo doesn't use his magical white light or tracking powers, weirdly enough, but they find the king, and the queen has just straight up, tried to kill him.
Yeah. Because like he's all slashed and like bleeding.
Yeah. And we get the obligatory Leo putting his hands over someone and healing their wounds. And the king's like, "Yeah, Colin, it was definitely your mom. She's clearly evil. My bad." When they're a little bit unclear about like what actually happened between the king and the queen, but the king is like, "Yeah, she's apparently a loyalist, and I definitely tried to stop her." And then you saw the knife mark, and he's like, "Yeah, you guys, you definitely got to go find Paige. Good luck with that."
Yeah, she's in danger. The whole kingdom's in danger.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah. Tip of the hat. There you go. So chapter 11, Piper and Leo orb to Paige. So I guess he does sense her after this. And they orb to this cold, dark basement cell thing. And they see Paige unconscious. And Leo does heal her, and she awakes, but she's still groggy. So like she's still not completely out of this whatever power spell that she was under. So guards come in and attack, and like separates Leo from the rest of the group. Like he gets like pushed aside. Piper tells Paige to orb, but she's still too weak. She's still not awake enough. So Piper's like, okay, and she starts blowing up all the guards. So then it cuts to Phoebe and Colin. They're on their own little mission. They're running outside in the town, in the kingdom, as the skies begin to darken. Like the storms are getting darker. The curse is beginning to happen. His hour of birth is upon us. And Phoebe gets a vision of an old woman in bed. And Corinne is holding her hand, and Colin is there too. And then she sees herself giving the old woman a spell. and watches her recite it. So she's like, oh, I saw the fuchsia. The future. And so yeah, and Phoebe's like, Colin, do either you or Corinne know an old lady around here? And Colin's like, oh yeah, that's Corinne's grandmother. And she's like, okay, cool, let's go to her. But first they have to get Corinne out, so I guess they have to go grab her, get her out of jail. So they go into the dungeon, but a guard stops him because the queen has forbidden him from seeing her. She's like, sorry, Prince, you can't see this lady. And Colin's like, the queen is a traitor and a coward. Then the guard's like, oh, I really wish you didn't say that. And then attacks him. So he's a loyalist too.
Yeah.
Rude. Oh my gosh. So they have a little bit of a tussle, but then Colin like waves his hand over the guard, and he just, after he did that, the guard went to the corner and read a book like nothing ever happened. It's like, oh, la-di-da-di-do. And he was like, whoa, you got some crazy powerful power. He's like, yeah, I do, but I don't use it often. So he can like make illusions, I guess, make people see illusions. And so they're out of his sight now. So they get Corinne and they head out of the cell and into the crowd. And they see loyalists. They're like celebrating the imminent death of the whole mortals in the kingdom. They're like, yeah, you're going to die. I'm like, it's a little off-putting there. So they get to Corinne's family's house now, and they say, hey, hi, nice to see you, father. Let's take me to your grandmother. And the grandmother's name is named Misha. All these eyes.
I think Misha.
Okay, Misha for this one. Phoebe tells Misha that she wants her to transfer her powers to Corinne, because her grandmother was actually like a full magical person, and she married a mortal, and that's what made the whole rest of the family mortals. But she's like the only pure magical person in the family. So she's like, if you transfer your powers to Corinne, she can be a magical person. She can be a witch and then get married and break the curse. Sounds rational to me. So they do that. And Phoebe gives a reworking of the power switching spell, because she remembers what the one they used to switch powers. She reworked it to just be a transference spell, so that there's no powers that need to be switched, but you can just give someone your powers. Misha is more than willing. She's like, yes, if I can help. She's like, I don't need these powers anymore. And then they recite the spell. Well, after the spell is done, Corinne kisses her grandmother, and they go outside, and the sky is all pitch black. And Colin tells Phoebe that Misha's power was to create light. So Corinne's like, oh, let me see if I can create the light. And so she puts her hands to the sky. A beam of light just emits and bursts through the dark cloud. And you can see a little patch of blue sky. She's like, hey, I can make things happen. And then a magistrate appears out of nowhere.
Naturally.
He's like, hey, I can marry you guys. And so he does. They get married real quick. But then the storm didn't end. The curse was apparently still on. Nothing was ever changed. Okay, she's like, Corinne has powers now, but apparently she's still not a pure magical being. Great. So Phoebe is all aghast. She's like, Leo, I tried something, didn't work. So they have to like get a plan C going. So she calls for Leo, and that's.
I love the fact that she actually says, Leo, we need a plan C.
Yeah. Out loud.
Yeah. And then cut back to, beginning of chapter 12, cut back to the cell, and the guards just keep coming one after another. It's like something out of a video game.
Yeah.
And Piper's just standing there blasting them and blowing them up, and Leo, using his magic white lighter powers, can hear Phoebe yelling for him, and he's like, all right, we're gonna orb out of here. But then he gets blasted up against the wall, and it's St. John. St. John has appeared, and Piper is like, I'm not worried about you. You are nothing compared to me.
Yeah. She's like, you think you can challenge me? He's like, bitch, please. Like, come on.
Well, and it's not even like she can say, look at how many of your guards I just disposed of, because she literally blew them all up.
Right.
Like, there's nothing for her to even point to. And he like goes in to attack, and like with just a very nonchalant flick of the wrist, she blows him up too.
Yeah, it was not even a fight. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it was pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But
I remember all the rest of his guys are like, oh, she just blew up like our most powerful guy. Oh, all right.
But see, that's why Piper's the best.
I know, for reals.
So Leo orbs him out of there, and they're all like, "Oh my God, there's like 15 minutes until the hour of Colin's birth. We got nothing."
Yeah.
And Piper's like on pure adrenaline, and she's like, "You know what, guys? I got it. The power of 3."
Let's do
And
it.
the fact that that wasn't the first thing that they thought of, because no matter what the situation with the Charmed One is, it's always the power of 3. It has always been the thing that gets them out of everything. So how is that not the first thing they tried when they got there? In the 15 minutes that they have, they and like the people who are not loyalists are all like running around the palace gathering everything that was like a relic of the great great grandmother, the one who
the
placed
cursed.
the curse, and they basically throw it all into a pile and set it on fire. And then the sisters start their spell, and then all the magical citizens who were there kind of start repeating the spell with them.
They join hands, like,
Excuse me.
let's form a calming circle.
And then the current queen runs in, and she's like, "You're not doing this under my watch," and she just gets tossed aside. And it's like it was like a blast of light or something from Corinne.
Yeah, because she goes to grab like her husband and Colin. She's like, "Come with me," and then Corinne's like, "No way! I got light powers now, bitch!"
And then the storm is over, and everyone realizes that the curse is broken, and everyone's celebrating. And Piper looks over, and all the artifacts that belonged to the evil queen have been completely like burned away. And then Colin has his mother arrested, and now he and Corinne kind of look at each other like, "Hey, we're married and we're not dead. We're the new king and queen."
Yay! Amazing.
So 12 definitely ends on a happy note.
Chapter 13 is very tiny. Okay, so the sisters and Leo have just gotten ready for the knighting ceremony. So they are going to be knighted for their braverisms. Paige is still in her wedding dress because she's like, "This was made for me. I look good in it. Why not? I'm going to wear this wedding dress." And then Colin, he vows his gratitude and respect for the strangers that came to their aid, and he bestows Lord and Lady titles to Paige and Phoebe and Piper and Leo. Beautiful. And then it cuts to Piper waking Paige up in the morning. And at this point I thought, like, is this going to be all a dream? I'm like, is this like just some crazy dream that Paige is having? I thought for sure that would have been it. That would have been a fun twist, but no. She's like, "I miss Tarsina. And Paige realizes that she should never settle when it comes to love. You know, I have good feelings about whoever I may end up with in the future now. Yay! So that's the end of the story.
I mean, as far as Charmed stories go, I do think it's a very solid story.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely one that I could picture happening on the show. It is very self-contained. There's nothing tying it in and setting it at any specific time period. So I like the fact that it has that kind of like standalone feel to it.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed this book. I like that it's kind of fun to have that like fairy tale kind of vibe again, because we had like A Night to Remember and Happily Ever After before those episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And that this is the first book that legitimately feels like season 6. There's 2 that took place in season 6. Like the War and Witches took place in season 6, but that was mostly time travel anyway, so you weren't really in the present. And then the only one, the Survival of the Fittest, took place in season 6, but only because they mentioned the spider demon. So, but this one actually feels like it because, you know, Phoebe actually used all 3 of her powers in this book.
She did, yeah.
Which is pretty rare.
There were 2 plot issues that I had with it. There are several points where Colin and Corinne tell them, "Oh yeah, we tried everything." All right, well, what did you try? Like, give me a list.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know what you actually did. And there were a few points where I think it was Piper who had said, you've known your entire life that this was coming. You knew that this was going to happen on your 25th birthday. Why did you wait until you're like 24 years old and 2 weeks? And there's never really a satisfactory answer.
No, they just say, it's like, we were just so in love, we didn't think about it. That's pretty much their answer. Yeah.
But like, he knew this was coming way before he ever met Corinne.
Yeah.
So like, how was there not a plan B? The other thing that I thought was a little bit weird was the fact that there were so many points in the story where they split up. Like, Phoebe and Leah would go to the bar, and Piper was with them, but then she wasn't with them, and then Paige was doing her thing. But it's like, at this point in their witch lives, they know that they're best when they're together. So why would they think we should split up? Because that always goes well. Like, they're always best when they're together. So I didn't understand why they kept separating and then regrouping and then separating and regrouping. It just seemed weird to me that they wouldn't immediately be like, all right, you know what? The power of 3 always works. Let's just go in together, do the power of 3, and take it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I did like that there was so many like little, very emotional scenes. And Emma Harrison, the author, has done this to me before in the past, like, where like her writing is generally super heart-wrenching in such a short amount of time. It's really good. Like, there's so little nuances of emotions, which I really appreciate with her. Even the one with her grandmother there, when she was really like feeling the connection with her grandma, I'm like, just stuff like that was really nice.
It really felt like she understood the characters. Like, she knew who she was writing about. And she would do little things to kind of give you a better sense of where their emotional state was. Like, even all the way back in the first chapter, where the artist guy, he looked out his window and was like, "Hey, Patricia." And she's like, "My name is Paige."
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. Like, she had already been feeling like, oh my god, I hate temping. I hate working for this guy. This whole thing is just, it's so infuriating. And just that little, like, dig of the knife a little bit just emphasized how underappreciated and unsatisfied she was with where she was in her life. So I really think the author did a good job of showing those little moments where you really got to see where people's heads were at.
And I thought this was surprisingly heavy. There's some pretty heavy themes for like a fairy tale kind of story, because they have like the dictatorship and intolerance and like, wiping out half a population simply because you don't like them. Like,
yeah,
it was really scary. Like, the fact that, there's literally loyalists cheering the death of people, that like broke my heart a lot. Like, cause it's scary because people like that exist in real life, and it's scary.
I think that's the scary element of it. It's not necessarily the fact that it was happening in the book. It's the fact that there are real life examples of those kind of just very hate-filled people who would cheer the idea that these people that they don't like are about to get slaughtered. Like, it's a really messed up reality.
Because I was thinking about all of the recent events, that were happening, and it's like Ukraine and the minorities in America, Black Lives Matter, things like that. Like, it's crazy and it's scary and it's sad. So people can come and go out of this kingdom, right? So I'm like, why can't all the mortals leave when it's his birthday? Would they be saved? Can they come back after the birthday is over?
They don't do a great job explaining like what the curse is. It's just the fact that people are going to die.
Right.
So I mean, theoretically, yeah, like these guys could have just like left, like some people would do before like a natural disaster.
Yeah, left
and
for
then
a
when
day.
the disaster's over, they can go back. So it's plot hole.
Yeah, unless they can't get in without a magical person. I'm not sure. It's a little unsure. And I want to apologize for Luca the guard. He's mentioned a lot. He has a name, but I just didn't include you in the summary because I didn't think you were that important.
He really wasn't.
But he was like the good guard that was on their side that helped them. So
yeah, yeah. So Luca was a guard. He was there. There, we acknowledged it.
There we go. There you go. Okay, moving on to Put That in My Canonical Hat.
Canonical.
The segment where we take the story and determine what is and what is not true to the narrative of the show and if this could legitimately be an episode.
So I feel like we did touch on that a lot during
Mhm.
the summary, but this very much could have been. I do think it would have had to be a two-parter, but I do think this easily could have been an actual episode because it did feel very realistic to
Mhm.
the charmed universe.
Did you have any problems with it? Did you sense any problems or no?
Honestly,
Okay.
with this one, I didn't.
Yeah, I think it would have been a really good episode, although being the stickler that I am, I did find some things.
Of course you did.
Okay, so if this is season 6, Leo should be an elder. Leo and Piper were not actually together at this point. They would be separated.
Okay.
Separated. They weren't divorced, but they were not together, Um, orbs in this book were described as white when they should be blue, even though there's little white in the blue, but things like that. I said Wyatt would not be more into a red ball over Wubby, because his teddy bear has a name named Wubby. I was like, he loves Wubby. I don't know why, but then I'm like, maybe he was feeling a certain way because Phoebe does mention that Wubby is his favorite. She's like, thank you, I know this is your favorite. So maybe he was just like, you can use some of Wubby's love today. So I could buy it, but I was like, wait, why would he choose the ball over his teddy bear?
I mean, it also could have been him almost being playful in his own way.
Yeah.
The fact that, like, I don't want you to have this ball just because you want it so badly.
Exactly.
So I'll give you this other thing instead because I know that I can get it back.
Yeah, and he trusts Phoebe, with
Yes.
Wubby. So I can see that being a thing for good reasons. This book does what I do all the time. Interchange the terms demon and warlock, even though they're two different things. They keep saying demon and warlock when they're talking about Colin. Like, which is he? But they do mention the warlock bleeding trick.
Mm-hmm.
That would only work on a warlock. If he was a demon, it wouldn't work because demons do bleed, and they do bleed red. The upper level ones do anyway. The upper level ones bleed red. So if he was a demon and they pricked him and he bleeded red, they might not know for sure. And then they use the enchantment spell, which is from Charmed Again. So that was a cool canon thing. Cinderella, the evil enchantress, and leprechauns, those are referenced. I like this because Piper herself in this book, when she vanquishes St. John, she's like, well, that was kind of anticlimactic. When she says it herself in this book, the famous line. I'm like, I love that. That's a fun little thing, book. So that's what I had for canonical.
See, you know the show better than I do, so I'm just going to trust that you are correct about all of it.
Okay, thank you.
Although actually the way that she reworded the power switching spell, because I actually vaguely remember the words to that one. So when I saw it on the page, I was like, oh yeah, that was a line. That's a new line. That was rewritten. So, and that's a callback to season 1, right?
Yes. Okay. So yeah, the power switching spell was in season 1. Love Hurts. That was when it was first used. They did use it again in Ordinary Witches, season 7, episode 11, but they changed the spell. They cut out a line, which made me mad. They didn't say the full spell in that episode. And then they did reference it in Charmed and Dangerous. They thought about switching powers in Charmed and Dangerous, but they don't do it. But yeah, the original spell was, what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine. Let our powers cross the line. I offer up this gift to share, switch our powers through the air. And they did rework that. But we're in rhyme time now, so why not we get into the spells?
Should we try a spell?
Why not? Let's try a spell.
In the wind, I sing this rhyme. Bring death before me, before my time.
You've really got to lay off the rhyming brew. Wonderful. Witty, but wordy.
I did the rhyme. I will do the time. Good night.
So the first one is the enchantment spell, the one that was actually used in Charmed Again in the show. Magic forces far and wide, enchant these so those can't hide. Allow the switch to use therein, so she can reveal the evil within. And that's when they enchanted the sunglasses. And in the Charmed Again, there's these cute little pink sunglasses, these little retro sunglasses. And she's going, oh, Balthazar's there. Oh, like, so, but I really enjoy that spell. I think it works, and it's always going to be a favorite of
mine. When they are transferring Grandma Misha's powers to Corinne, they have the spell to transfer power.
Yes.
What's mine is yours, my power is thine. Let my magic cross the line. I offer up my gift to share. Send my powers through the air.
Yeah. So it's very similar. They did have more my's in there, more ownership of who has the power instead of our. It's my because I'm the only one, So, but yeah, I think it works. I like it a lot. I think it's a really good appropriation of the spell. So, works for me.
I was happy with it.
Yeah. The last spell is the one to end the queen's curse, the spell of all spells. Pile up all of the queen's items, light them on fire, then form a circle and chant the spell. Bonfire. Okay. Curse of evil, born of fear, no longer will you settle here. We call upon our ancient power in this darkest, bleakest hour. Expel this evil, expel the night, bring us peace, bring us light. And then they said that over and over again, which I guess is a really good community bonding time. And I think the spell is nice. So
I actually liked the visual of when they were doing the spell kind of more than the spell itself. Because it's not very often that the Charmed Ones get to work with other witches. So having other magical beings kind of add their power to the sisters, it's something that they don't get to do. I can't think of any other time.
Everybody's will, everybody's strength, everybody's power culminating. I guess that's good. I think the closest thing I could think of is in like Love's a Witch when they get the whole Montana family and to summon. All right, so I guess that's that for that. I have best Baddie rankings.
You get locked or frozen in fear!
Best Baddie.
And this is the first book in the new Best Baddie group. So right now we have Shax, and then we have Sinjin, and we have Queen Ramona. I think I'm still going to put Shax number 1 right now, and then the Queen, and then Sinjin. So that's where I'm at.
I agree. Of these three, Shax is number 1. But I would actually put Sinjin above the Queen because I feel like he was your kind of typical villain who just kind of sat back and ordered people to do stuff without really doing anything on his own. And the one time he actually tried to get in the thick of things, Piper blew him up. But I feel like he had a more active role in the story.
That's true.
Where Queen Ramona basically just kind of sat back and didn't do anything other than be a little bit bitchy. And then it was only in the 11th hour that she did anything noteworthy, but even then
she didn't really fight. Yeah, she was just like, I'll take you and keep you captive, but I'm not really in the midst of battle.
Yeah,
right,
and even then, Sinjin was playing a more active role than she was.
That's true. He was like being the ringleader of everybody. So he might have been taking orders from her, but he was the one that was active. Okay, I will switch my answers. There you go. You convinced me. Now we're gonna get into our Grimoire game.
What is this, some kind of game?
Grimoire Game.
Some people think this is entertainment.
Are you ready for this?
I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna lose, and I don't even know the rules yet.
So we are gonna be playing Name That Queen, and I wrote like little clues, little blurby clues that rhyme. I made them rhyme because I'm
of course you
a freak. And so I will give you a clue, and then you will have to try to guess which queen I am talking about.
Okay.
In pop culture, in media, and stuff like that.
Do I get a lifeline or a phone a friend or anything?
No.
Okay.
So the first one. This queen likes ice and snow, but also learned to let it go.
That would be Queen Elsa from Frozen.
Correct. Starting off easy. I'm trying to keep these relatively easy.
I appreciate that.
Yes. This queen prefers roses red. If you meet her, hold on to your head.
Oh, it's the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland.
Yes. There you go. Painting the roses red. That one. Okay. This one might be hard for you. Barbies and clowns can be scary, but this queen is skinny legendary. It's a drag queen one, so that's why it probably be hard for you.
My drag queen knowledge is
I'll forgive you.
Poor. Say it one more time.
Barbies and clowns can be scary, but this queen is skinny legendary.
Miss Coco Peru?
No, it is Trixie Mattel. Trixie is a friend of mine. I grew up with her in Milwaukee here. We did plays together, and we went to college together. We worked in the mall together. So I'm like, all right, I'll shout you out. So next one. This queen's pride is being fair. Try this apple if you dare.
The evil queen from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
There you go. That's the one. This small queen held a British throne, but also had a robot clone.
A robot clone. Can I get a hint? Like a decade that the movie came out?
Came out in 1986, this movie.
I'm totally stumped.
This is the Mouse Queen from The Great Mouse Detective.
Oh my god. And I know The Great Mouse Detective, but I honestly haven't seen it since probably the 90s.
The Queen of Mousedom, pretty much like a parallel to the Queen of England. And Ratigan made this like clone robot lookalike that would go crazy and go ah! And start jittering around, and like the neck would pop out and everywhere, and yeah, it was fun.
All of my friends who are Disney fanatics will be so mad at me for not knowing that one.
Okay. This queen can control the weather from mutant to Wakanda forever.
That would be Storm of the X-Men.
Yeah, Storm, because she married T'Challa at one point, and so became queen of the Wakanda. Last one. Wigs and puppets, tits and ass. This queen appeared on this podcast.
That would be James Mansfield.
There you go. Ta-da! James Mansfield was on episode 1 and episode 11 of the podcast. So, yeah, another friend I had to mention. So I think you only get 2 wrong then. 2 out of the 7.
Not bad.
Not too shabby. The last thing on the list is tips for future white lighters.
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
Which is the moral of the story. What was the moral of this story, I think?
I feel like this one had 2 morals. One is don't discriminate. Like, all of this happened because people were discriminating against mortals for just being born different.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a justification for disliking or mistreating people. It's don't judge people before you actually get to know them. I would say that's the bigger moral. I think there was a second kind of more subtle moral of don't wait for life to be a fairy tale. Because even the fairy tales are not as picture perfect as they seem. You need to kind of make your own happiness. You need to not base everything off this kind of like glamorized version of what you think life should be. You kind of got to make your own happiness to a degree.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. So I put kind of the first one I put live your life with compassion and tolerance, kindness and respect, because the more people that do, the better the world will be. So just be nice, people.
Absolutely. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah. And then the second one I have, this was mentioned right in the book, never trust the mother-in-law.
But it wasn't technically... You know what's funny about that? I originally didn't think that this queen would be the villain, because in so many fairy tales, it's the evil stepmother, not the mother. Right. Who is the villain. So because they were going for that fairy tale thing and she wasn't a stepmother, I initially didn't think she was going to be the villain. I was clearly wrong, but
would have been a twist if they said, oh yeah, she's evil, and then threw you off with that, making you think that she would be the villain, and then somebody else would be it,
Yeah.
But so that's it. We did it. So where can people find you on the social medias and stuff?
So I am on Twitter and Instagram at Literary Ian, and you can also find me on my agency website, MaximusLiterary.com.
Woohoo! And then you can follow this podcast at Words of the Witches, pretty much everywhere. Words of Witches on Twitter. Email wordsofwitchespod@gmail.com, or follow my other podcast at Hanging with the Hollowells. So much stuff. Yeah, and that's it. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Your destiny still awaits. Bye!